What if I told you that a simple tourist visa could upend the global luxury industry and shake the very foundation of international trade? Right now, as tensions flare between two economic giants, a quiet but powerful move is unfolding. One that's catching luxury brands, governments, and shoppers completely off guard. It started with a bold stroke. The US, under President Trump, raising tariffs on Chinese imports to a jaw-dropping 245%. For many, this seemed like a death blow to China's export-driven economy. But Beijing had a different plan. Rather than striking back with a classic tit-for-tat tariff, China unveiled something unexpected, something far more cunning. In a move that stunned the world, Beijing announced visa-free travel for citizens from dozens of Western countries, including the United States. At first glance, it looked like a simple invitation, a friendly gesture in a time of global tension. But beneath the surface, this new policy hid a strategic masterstroke, one aimed squarely at the heart of Western luxury consumption and manufacturing. How does offering free visas tie into global trade battles? And why are luxury brands suddenly scrambling behind closed doors? As Chinese social media erupted with exposés showing the true origins of high-end goods, and as videos of so-called luxury handbags rolling off mass production lines in Chinese factories went viral, Beijing saw a once-in-a-generation opportunity. But what is China really aiming for with this open door policy? And could this move mark a turning point, not just in trade wars, but in how the entire world views wealth, prestige, and consumption itself? What happens next might change the game forever. On the surface, it sounded like a dream come true. Visa-free entry to China. Up to 30 days, no tedious paperwork, no long interviews at consulates. Just book a ticket, hop on a plane, and you're in. For travelers from places like the United States, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, it felt almost like a gift. But as with anything in international politics, nothing is ever just a simple gift. This wasn't just about boosting tourism. This was a carefully calculated play, a strategic move designed to shake up the global economy, and it hit luxury brands and governments harder than anyone could have predicted. When the US hiked tariffs on Chinese goods to 245%, most people expected Beijing to retaliate with a classic move. Maybe more tariffs on American products, maybe some restrictions on American companies, but no. China decided to do something completely unexpected. Instead of fighting over products at the border, they decided to pull the customers into their home turf. Overnight, China transformed its biggest cities into luxury shopping paradises. Airports like Beijing Capital and Shanghai Pudong suddenly had express customs lines for foreign visitors, designed to whisk tourists through and straight into the shopping malls. In-store tax refunds made shopping even cheaper, and the government quietly worked with luxury stores and outlets to create private shopping experiences for foreigners. No crowds, no waiting, just you and an ocean of luxury goods, often at prices you couldn't even dream of back home. And here's where it gets really interesting. The very luxury goods that people had been paying double or even triple for in cities like New York and Paris. Many of those items were already being made in China, in the same cities tourists were now visiting. The labels might say, made in Italy, or crafted in France. But a lot of the stitching, assembling, and even the materials, well, they came from Chinese factories. So what China did was flip the game. Instead of exporting goods across oceans, dealing with tariffs and trade wars, they decided to import the shoppers themselves. Bring them to China. Let them spend their money directly. No tariffs, no middlemen, no global shipping nightmares. Just pure consumerism, straight from the source. It was smart, it was aggressive, and it was a total shock to the luxury industry. To make it even easier, China expanded another little-known policy, the 240-hour visa-free transit program. That meant travelers who were just passing through places like Shanghai, Guangzhou, or Beijing for up to 10 days could also jump into this shopping frenzy without needing a full tourist visa. You didn't even need to plan a full vacation. A short stopover could turn into a luxury shopping spree. And shoppers responded. Videos started popping up all over social media. Americans and Europeans showing off the designer bags, watches, and electronics they scored for a fraction of the price they would have paid back home. The message was loud and clear. Why buy luxury goods in your own country when you can get them cheaper, fresher, and sometimes even more authentically in China? But as more and more travelers jumped on this opportunity, one uncomfortable question started to spread. If all these luxury products are made here, and if they're being sold here, then what exactly are we paying extra for back home? The brand name, the marketing, the illusion? That question, quiet, creeping, and dangerous, is exactly what luxury brands fear the most. And thanks to China's visa-free shopping strategy, it's no longer just a whisper. It's becoming a roar. For years, luxury brands had wrapped themselves in this aura of mystique. Hand-stitched, artisan-made, crafted with centuries of tradition in tiny European villages. The story was almost more valuable than the product itself. But now, thanks to social media and a lot of very determined smartphone users, that story is starting to fall apart. It began quietly. A few videos here and there posted by workers who showed what really went on behind closed doors. Massive factories in southern China, assembly lines churning out thousands of handbags, wallets, watches, and shoes every single day. Some of these videos were even live-streamed directly from inside the factories, showing workers racing against the clock to finish quotas for brands that people had once imagined were handmade by elderly Italian craftsmen. And it wasn't just no-name brands. Some of the most revered names in luxury were caught up in it. The same brands that charge thousands of dollars for a single bag were shown to be using machines, templates, and production lines just like any other big factory operation. For consumers, it was a shock. For luxury brands, it was a nightmare. Because once you see how the sausage is made, it's very hard to go back. Suddenly, those sky-high price tags started to look less like a symbol of quality and more like a very expensive illusion. And the timing of all this couldn't have been worse for the luxury industry. Just as these behind-the-scenes videos were exploding across TikTok and Instagram, China rolled out its visa-free shopping policy. It was like a 1-2 punch. First, consumers learned that their beloved luxury goods weren't as exclusive as they thought. Then they discovered they could fly straight to the source and buy the exact same products for a fraction of the price. You could almost hear the panic spreading across boardrooms in Paris and Milan. Because if the magic of luxury could be exposed so easily, what exactly were they selling anymore? Sure, branding still mattered. The prestige of walking into a glittering boutique on Rodeo Drive or the Champs-Élysées wasn't going to vanish overnight. But the foundations had been cracked. Let's start with the basics. For years, China's economy was built on exports. They made the goods, we bought them. Simple. But with rising tariffs, global tensions, and a world that's slowly starting to pull supply chains back home, China needed a new strategy. They couldn't just keep pumping out cheap goods forever. They had to shift. They had to find a way to bring the world to them. And what better way than to turn their own cities into international shopping hubs? It's brilliant when you think about it. Instead of fighting tooth and nail to get their products into foreign markets and paying hefty tariffs along the way, they bring the customers into China, let them spend freely, and keep all the profits at home. It's not just a defensive move, it's an offensive one. By pulling in tourist dollars, China is softening the blow of lost exports. They're keeping their manufacturing engines running. They're giving their domestic economy a boost exactly when they need it most. And at the same time, they're sending a quiet but powerful message to the world. We don't need to beg for access to your markets anymore. You need us. This shift is making a lot of people very nervous, especially in the West. Because if China can control both sides of the trade equation, manufacturing the goods and hosting the buyers, they control the entire flow of wealth. And that's exactly what the United States has been trying to avoid with its tariff war in the first place. Diplomatically, it puts Washington in a tricky spot. The US can raise tariffs all day long. But if American consumers are still flying over to China to buy the exact same goods they're supposed to be boycotting, what's the point? And it's not just about tariffs or shopping, it's about influence. When people travel, they form opinions. When Americans, Europeans, Australians walk through gleaming Chinese airports, experience the convenience, the efficiency, the luxury firsthand, it chips away at old stereotypes. It creates a new image of China, not just as the world's factory, but as a modern, sophisticated, desirable destination. That's soft power, and it's the kind of power that lasts longer than any trade deal. Luxury brands, meanwhile, are caught in the middle of all this. On one hand, they need China. They need Chinese factories. They need Chinese consumers. They need the prestige that comes from having their goods in booming Asian markets. On the other hand, they have to tread very carefully. If they lean too hard into China, they risk alienating their Western customers, many of whom are increasingly wary of Chinese influence. If they pull back too much, they lose access to the largest, fastest-growing luxury market in the world. It's a high-wire act with no safety net. And right now, there's no clear way to win. At the government level, there are already rumblings about new policies to counter China's latest moves. Talks of tightening visa rules. Talks of cracking down on imports of luxury goods bought abroad. Talks of even higher tariffs. But deep down, officials know the truth. You can regulate goods. You can't regulate people's desires. If shoppers believe they can get better deals, better experiences, and better products by flying to China, no law is going to stop them. Not in the long run. And that's the real genius of China's strategy. They didn't just respond to the trade war with more tariffs. They rewired the entire game, moving it from ports and shipping containers to airports and shopping malls. They took the fight off the battlefield that the West expected and opened a brand new front where they have the advantage. It's no longer just about who can make things cheaper. It's about who can control where and how people spend their money and their loyalty. And right now, China's making a very strong play for both. So where does all of this leave us? Well, it's clear that the old rules no longer apply. The world of global trade, luxury branding, and consumer loyalty is shifting under our feet. And China's visa-free shopping strategy might just be the clearest sign yet that we're stepping into a new era. By welcoming foreign travelers with open arms and open cash registers, China has shown it doesn't have to play defense anymore. It can innovate. It can adapt. It can even turn the weapons of its rivals into opportunities. Tariffs, trade barriers, no problem. If the world won't let China export its goods, China will simply import the world's shoppers. It's a bold move, and it leaves Western governments and luxury brands with a tough choice. Either find new ways to compete or risk being left behind. But there's a bigger, deeper question hanging in the air, one that's harder to answer. If the illusion of luxury has been pierced, if people now see that prestige often has less to do with craftsmanship and more to do with clever marketing, what happens next? Will shoppers demand more authenticity? Will brands have to rebuild trust from the ground up? Or will consumers simply shrug, accept the new reality, and keep chasing the best deals wherever they find them? And beyond that, what happens when other countries start copying China's playbook? When every major economy realizes they can attract foreign wealth not by sending products overseas, but by pulling travelers in? The world is changing fast, and what we're seeing right now might just be the opening moves of a much bigger, much longer game, because in the end, it's not just about visas or shopping or even luxury itself. It's about power. It's about who controls the story and who gets to rewrite it. And right now, China is holding the pen.